Okay, so today is Saturday, and we are 48 days away from Friday, the 9th of March 2018, which is 666 days after Thursday, the 12th of May 2016. 666 times 3 plus 6 times 3 equals 2016. The number 2016. Like I said, today's Saturday. 48 days. 48, the value of rude, and it's the value of evil. It was a Saturday when I saw the message, Have Faith, Josh 10:9:45. As I was waking up from a dream, I saw that written on paper, and that was on Saturday, 12th of May 2012. And the date that I started my countdown of 666 days was exactly 4 years after that dream. And it was a Thursday, or Thor's Day. Thor, the Greek god of lightning and thunder. Speaking of which, red rain equals 69. Red boy, Riley, 69. Red rain, the first time I ever saw red rain was 2 hours after I had written red rain equals 69. And for me that was a pretty big coincidence, and it came at a pretty cool time. So red rain equals 69 and Riley equals 69. 6-9. 6th of September happens to be, or the 6th of the 9th, happens to be the birthday of the boy who told me that wetterling means weather child. 6 plus 9 is 15, and that's how old he turned on the 6th of the 9th, 2017. His birthday coincided with Hurricane Irma being the strongest storm that the Atlantic has seen in a long time, and Jose became a hurricane that day. Riley will be the number 10 cyclone this year in Australia, as long as no more cyclones are named by other territories. It will be number 10. It would have been number 9, except we had Dahlia, which was named by Indonesia. So, evil equals 48. 4 plus 8 is 12, and 12 is the age of the boys in this story, and it was also on a Saturday when I found this book by R.L. Stine, and it was at the Queanbeyan Library, and it was Halloween. Halloween 2015 was when I found this story by none other than R.L. Stine, and it's about twin 12-year-old angels. 12, the start date of my countdown of 666 days. 12-year-old identical twins. Identical twin blonde boys. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed boys who could have been poster boys for Adolf Hitler and the German Nazi Party, or for the Australian Department of Immigration and Border Protection, if you ask me. And I say that because they wrongfully rejected my partner visa application, and I know there's a racist aspect to Australia's policies on immigration. Officially no, but it's like America. If you ask me, a lot of people in America support Donald Trump, and Australia's immigration and border protection was taken control of by Peter Dutton back in around the time I lodged my application. Peter Dutton is a racist. He demeans, he stigmatizes, and he plays the race card at every opportunity he gets, just like Donald Trump. People who claim Donald Trump's not a racist is deluded. Just a week ago he said why, and he said this in a meeting an immigration meeting, why do we have to have all these people coming here from shithole countries? He didn't just say that once, he said it several times during a meeting on immigration. That's truly racist right there. Perhaps racist is not the right word. I mean, Daniel and Samuel, I just said, could be poster boys for the German Nazi Party. The Aryan boys, blue eyes, the blonde hair. But they're also the kind of boys, if they go down the beach and get themselves a nice suntan, they can turn a bit darker. Doesn't change who they are. Skin colour doesn't change who people are. What if a dark-haired boy goes down the beach and his hair turns blonde because of the bleaching effect of the sun? Does that change who he is? No. But when you see a group of people who are suffering, like the Rohingya Muslims, who have been forced to flee from Myanmar after at least 6,000 of them were murdered, and by murdered I mean massacred, slaughtered. When you see a group of people suffering like that, and you choose to say nothing while addressing the UN, while listing all the countries that you think are evil, all the countries that you think are a problem, from North Korea to Iran, and obviously North Korea is a problem. Kim Jong-un is evil. He's proved he's evil by the things he's done to people. But when you're giving a speech where you're saying we may have to totally destroy North Korea, and then you move on to list all the other countries that you regard as being a problem, and you fail to mention Myanmar, where heaps, and by heaps I don't just mean hundreds, I mean thousands of people have just been murdered, where boys as young as 1 and 2 years old have been thrown into fires to burn to death, and you don't mention Myanmar? You can call it what you want. You are looking at a group of people who are suffering horribly, and you are discriminating against them. And anyone who supports Donald Trump and pleads ignorance on that is, in my view, evil. And we are 48 days away from Friday, 9th of March 2018, which happens to be the birthday of my partner, my ex-partner, still my best friend, the person I would have been with if I hadn't been brutally cut off from him by Australia's Department of Immigration and Border Protection. And I think his birthday this year is going to coincide with an event. And given the coincidence that I experienced when I found this book on Saturday, 31st of October 2015, which was just after I got out of a psychiatric unit, after I became suicidal, after I was told by my partner that immigration had told him he could not return to Australia for 3 years. And having spoken to immigration and having gained a glimpse of how heartless they truly are, and knowing that Peter Dutton was the new minister, knowing that I was never going to have any luck with my partner visa, which ended up being true, $10,000 that I borrowed, trusting the authorities, which I should not have done. Massive mistake. Massive, terrible mistake. To trust authorities who act like Nazis. Samuel and Daniel, the twins, the twin angels, they could have been poster boys for the German Nazi Party, or they could have been poster boys for the current government of America, or Australia's Department of Immigration and Border Protection. And you know what's saddest of all? In Australia, changing governments may not make a lot of difference. It's a pretty sad state of affairs. And the reason I say it's a pretty sad state of affairs is because I've heard virtually nothing from the Australian government or from the opposition about Myanmar. when 6,000 people are murdered, when it's a case of what the UN has described as textbook ethnic cleansing, it's evil. To not call that out for what it is just shows the degree to which Australia now has two major parties that are simply in a power struggle to determine who gets to have power over the people of Australia. And that's really all it's about. They don't care about what's important or what's right. They don't care about human rights. They don't care that children are being thrown into fires and burned to death. That's about as evil as you get. Australia has not changed its standing on Myanmar. There's been no response. There's been no condemnation. There's been no diplomatic response. There's been no changes to Australia's arrangements for training with the Myanmar military. No change. No response to ethnic cleansing. And Australia calls itself a bastion of freedom and a bastion of what? Democracy? What kind of democracy ignores that kind of evil? Today is Saturday. It's the 20th of January 2018. And it's 1 year today since Donald Trump was inaugurated as President of the United States. In 48 days from now, it will be Friday, the 9th of March 2018. Something's going to happen that day. I'm taking a stab at the fact that it might be a cyclone named Riley. Well, that might be one of the things that happens. Maybe not the main thing, but one of the things. Because I'm feeling pretty riled up by what the Australian government has done. Not just to me, but what is on display for all the world to see in the way Australia has failed to react 4 months after eyewitnesses came forward to report what had been done to them and to their families. For Australia's government to ignore that. Myanmar's not that far from Australia. India, where my best friend and my ex-partner lives, it's not that far from Australia. Bangladesh, where all the refugees have fled, the survivors, it's not that far from Australia. I know why Australia hasn't condemned the Myanmar military. It's because Peter Dutton thinks that Muslims in Myanmar, the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, should be regarded as terrorists and ignored. And to me, that's about as evil as you can get. It definitely explains why my partner visa was rejected, because that kind of evil, you can imagine what else goes with that, what else comes with that. But really, this is about those kids thrown into fires to burn alive. And countries like America and Australia, which are supposedly the protectors of freedom, the countries that supposedly embody the values that soldiers have historically gone and sacrificed their lives for, and it's crap. It's a load of crap. And they've proved it. Because 4 months is too long to not respond to that kind of evil. And do you know what the red rain is in this story? It's actually the blood of the victims. It's the blood of the victims of a hurricane. Like it says on the back. You cannot ignore evil and call yourself a good, democratic bastion of freedom and something that's worth sacrificing your life for, because you're not. Maybe I should read this book to you. It's a pretty good story, but I don't think I have enough battery to read it all. So what if I just choose a random short chapter and read it to you? I'll do that. Hey, how'd you get here? Ira raised his head from the fat blue inner tube and squinted at the twins as they pulled back the gate and stepped onto the deck. Walked, Daniel answered. Samuel had never seen anything as beautiful as this pool. It was long and wide, nearly the length of the house. The pool walls were a light blue, sky blue. The water sparkled with little patches of sunlight, as if little chunks of the sun had fallen into the pool, he thought. He wanted to dive in and scoop them up. He just wanted to sink into the water, immerse himself in the clear, clean cold. Be clear and clean himself. But he knew Daniel had other plans. You guys know how to swim? Ethan sat on the edge of the deep end, blonde hair as bright as the sunlight, leaning down to fill a yellow and red plastic water blaster. We swim, Daniel said. We lived on an island, remember, lad? Sammy and I swam before we could walk. That's cool, Ethan replied. Samuel had never seen a boy so pale, nearly as white as the fence surrounding the pool deck. He could see Ethan's rib cage poking out from his chest. He's puny for 12. The boy needs to pump up. Maybe we can help him, if Daniel doesn't drown the lad today. Ethan dipped the blaster under the water. Then he raised it and shot a lazy spray of water across the pullet to Ira. Floating drowsily on his tube, luxuriating with his eyes closed, Ira didn't even notice. Is the water warm? Samuel dropped to his knees and ran a hand through it. Under the surface he could feel the spray of cold water shooting into the pool. Nice. Ethan aimed carefully and sent a long spray of water into Ira's face. Ira spluttered and dove off the pool tube. Ethan laughed. He had a dry crackle of a laugh. Like in a witch, Samuel thought. Ira floated beneath the surface. He rose up in front of Ethan and spit a long stream of water onto his legs. Daniel grabbed the chrome ladder and lowered himself into the water. He pushed himself away from the wall and paddled towards Ira. How long can you stay underwater? He asked, bobbing in a spill of gold sunlight. Ira's head sank into the water again. He rose up and spit another mouthful onto Ethan's legs. Ethan gave him a blast between the eyes with the plastic water squirter blaster. How long? Daniel insisted, following Ira across the pool. Samuel's body felt sticky and drenched with sweat from the walk to Ethan's house. He held his breath and leaped into the deep end. The shock of the cold water made him gasp, and he came up to the surface, spluttering. Ira can stay underwater for a whole minute, he heard Ethan tell Daniel. I've seen him. Daniel eyed Ira. A whole minute? Ira shrugged his skinny shoulders. Yeah, I guess. Samuel didn't want to listen. He knew the routine. He ducked underwater and swam the length of the pool. It felt so fresh and cold and made his body tingle. Alive. I feel alive. When he resurfaced, Daniel was continuing his act. Do you have a timer? He called to Ethan. Ethan set down the water blaster. There's a stopwatch on my dad's iPhone. Go get it, Daniel ordered. You can time Ira and me. Ethan started to the house. His swimsuit hung on him, down to his knees. Wait, Ethan. You want to be in the contest? Daniel's voice made a ringing sound over the water. And I'm going to stop there. I'm going to play some news. Because there's a news story on now that kind of relates to what I was talking about before I started reading about Daniel and Samuel, who you might recall are the 12-year-old twins in the story. The 12-year-old twins in Red Rain. And 12 is the date. That is 666 days before Friday 9th of March.
Now finding out about this major security blunder. Matt Cunningham, Sky News, Darwin.
Democratic Senate leader Chuck Schumer has met with President Donald Trump to search for ways to avert a US government shutdown. The president invited Schumer to the White House as a stopgap bill to fund the federal government through February 16 appeared on the verge of a collapse in the Senate. Democratic votes are needed to pass the bill. The president tweeted that the preliminary meetings were making progress.
Against the backdrop of political crisis and threatened gridlock, the annual pro-life march snakes through Washington.
We're pro-life nation!
These are people who, by and large, voted for Trump, are not disappointed by him, and who certainly don't blame him for the chaos on Capitol Hill.
I think that's politics as usual in Washington, D.C., and I think it's shameful, but I do not blame President Trump, no.
Well, I wouldn't blame Trump on that, that's for sure. I would blame the Democrats for that.
I think Donald Trump has an excellent agenda. I think he's doing the best that he can with a lot of people blocking him.
We are less than 8 hours from a federal government shutdown.
But all day, as the news networks here count down to a government shutdown, it's been an unedifying public slanging match between Republicans and Democrats, each blaming the other for the impasse.
Some senators would hold the entire country hostage.
Shame on the majority party, the Republicans, for saying that's the best they can do.
The top Democrat, Chuck Schumer, was summoned to the White House for 11th hour talks with a president who prides himself on doing deals and who needs one badly here.
We made some progress, but we still have a good number of disagreements. The discussions will continue. Thank you.
The sticking point is a Democrat demand that 700,000 undocumented migrants who entered the US as children be protected from deportation. They're linking it to the budget vote, and the debate over the so-called Dreamers' fate was poisoned by allegedly racist comments made by Trump. The president himself addressed the pro-life rally from the White House today without referring to the shutdown. Instead, he plugged his achievements.
I will say our country is doing really well. Our economy is perhaps the best it's ever been. You look at the job numbers, you look at the companies pouring back into our country. And that theme is...
Critics would say that the political chaos reigning in Washington today is a fitting climax to a turbulent first year for Trump. But the truth is, it's probably more about a dysfunctional form of government than it is about a disruptive and disorganized president. But America now faces a shutdown of government offices and services that could cause inconvenience and hardship. Trump, the deal maker, has his work cut out, and the clock is ticking. Mark Austin, Sky News, in Washington.
Las Vegas police say they don't believe any charges will be laid against Australian...
Well, that's interesting, ain't it? Because it's only a couple of weeks since... It's only a week, actually, since Donald Trump made his comment. Why do we need all these people coming here from shithouse countries? Shithole countries? Which is, I don't know, I thought that sounded a bit racist. But I guess if they say it's not, then it's not. Then again, maybe that's the reason why all these people support Donald Trump. I think it is, actually. You know, when I was at school, at high school, my teacher said something to me that at the time I thought was ridiculous. Because I used to think, you know, Nazi Germany was obviously a really evil place being run by really evil people. And I just thought, you know, it's like some fictional story that you sort of, you don't really relate to it in today's modern world. At least when I was at high school, I couldn't relate to it. But that was back in the early 90s, mid-90s kind of thing, and, you know, now things have changed, because now what my history teacher said seems kind of true. What he said is 33% of any population will do and support exactly the kind of stuff that the Nazis did, which is to say genocide, mass murder, killing people that you don't like, putting them in concentration camps, working them to death, doing all the stuff that, the kind of stuff that we say dictators are evil for. And the kind of stuff that I'm sure Daniel, who is the evil twin in this story, would do to people if he had the opportunity. He wants to rule the school. He does rule the school. Having power over people, that's what it's really about. It's about having power over other people. It doesn't matter what colour they are. It doesn't matter really what religion they are. But when you see a group of people who are suffering, like the Rohingya Muslims who are inarguably a religious minority in Myanmar. When you choose to ignore that, you're playing with fire. You are playing with fire.